me. But I'll call it to order. 7:03. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah Prescott. I'm the president of Spenard Community Council. That's the meeting we're all in. Thank you for coming. This is anybody's very first time at Spenard Community Council and meeting with Spenard Community Council. Anybody's very first time. Go. Hello. Can you tell us your name? Yeah, I'm Maya. Hello. Nice to meet you. Is there anybody else who is their very first time to Spenard meeting? What's your name? I'm Emily. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to introduce the executive board, and I'm Sarah Jet Smith, is our vice president. She's over here. Margaret McDonough is our secretary. Julie Leonard, she is online. She is our treasurer. And then we have some folks who are not here tonight due to travel or the illness that's going around town. Peggy Smith is our auditor. Lonsdale is also an auditor, and Irene Gamble is also an auditor. Irene brought cookies tonight, so please at any time if you need a cookie, please go grab a cookie. The way we run our meetings, it's loosely on Robert's rules to the best of our ability. I'm not a parliamentarian. I have the rings and bolts, but we do ask that to be recognized by me as we go through questions for our various initiatives or reports. Here's the reports tonight. There'll be time for Q&A. And then the general guidelines for our issues are on the agenda. This is not normally how this is formatted, so I apologize, but for notes. Let me press the agenda. Does anybody have any questions before we go to the consent agenda about our meetings? So forgive me, I can't help you. Okay. Very good. I will entertain a motion to move the consent agenda. Although I actually have an amendment to or go ahead. You a second.
Second.
Okay, by Peggy, seconded by Jed. On the agenda, I put that we postponed from the meeting of September 3rd, item number 8. It was really continued, not postponed. Technical, but. So if I may make that amendment to change that to continue instead of postponed. So it's recording. I guess I moved that at seconded. Any objection? Hearing none. That's passed. Any objection to approving the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of last month's meeting and the agenda for this meeting? Hearing none. All are approved, and we can launch into our community announcements. This is the part where we announce things that are going on in our community. Good things in Spenard, events, new businesses, awesome things. Who has some awesome things that they want to announce? Emily does. Emily is. I'm just setting it up. And I said, you can stand up, you can sit down, whatever you are most comfortable.
Hi, I'm Emily Klopper. I am going to be opening up a business in the writer's block space here. That's going to be a very similar model in terms of bookstore, cafe, event space. I'm learning rapidly how long uni approval takes for you. And so I don't have like a solid set opening date, but yeah, I'm excited to continue this kind of continued creative hub and vibe in that space. And if you have any thoughts or ideas on
Cool, let's do it. Thank you. Does anybody else have a community announcement? Yes, Bill.
Tomorrow night's the full moon, and Todd Lance is going to do his last full moon sound bath at the Adams Center, which is located in Alaska Center for Spiritual Living now. And it starts at 7:00, and there's a fee for it. There's a potluck. You eat for a little while, then you go through this amazing sound bath with these huge gongs and crystal bowls that are all tuned to what the horoscope was for or is for tomorrow night. And then you eat a little bit more, and then a lot of times you'll meditate again. It's the Alaska Center is living now. It's on the old sewer, almost right across from 907 Ale House, behind where Black Elk Leather used to be. Next to, I think, Dino's Donuts.
Our favorite thing. Does anybody online have any announcements? Oh. I don't see any hands, so yes, Jamie.
Sure. So, obviously Duke Russell's not here. But he's going to have his last community dinner. So he's done 3 before this. I tried to convince him that he's sort of an artist. He wants to move on to other things and let somebody take over. But at the very least, the last one that's going on right now will be Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. To approximately about 7 or 7:30 at the Nave. And so typically they serve dinner around 5 p.m. But it's free. It's a community event. We break bread with people you do not know. And it's a nice event, you know, it's good food. And so pretty much everybody is welcome. Yeah, it's nice.
December 14th, is that?
Sunday, December 14th, they should be 2 to around 7 or 7:30.
Who needs to sign that?
Yeah, he's got an RSVP and he did it video form. He'll probably post that soon. So,
It's not pot one.
well, they pretty much just go ahead and they prepare food. The company needs to know how many people are coming, so that's fine. Experience, so that's right.
All right, thank you so much. And that's at the Navy said?
Yeah.
Are there any other community announcements before we move forward with progress report? Hearing none, we have Representative Louise Gavin. To give her a call. Great, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. I know that some of you may not understand all the different layers of who's deciding what that makes to your life. And so I just wanted to give you a quick, kind of 10,000 foot level of what I do and why I'm here. So I represent most of Midtown, the northern part of Midtown, all the way to Tudor, and sometimes a little bit beyond. So this is in my district, and if you live in Spenard, you're likely in my district all the way through the university. And so what I do is I serve all of you by going to Juneau, and we write laws there, but most importantly, we design a budget. And I'm fortunate to be on the finance committee. And so I can answer lots of questions like that if you have me. The budget typically looks at the big things like healthcare, education, transportation. Those are the big things that might affect you in your daily life. And then other pieces, we have over 300 bills. So that those are things that are working through committee process, ideas that may become law. So things like safe storage for guns, for example, or something completely different might be incentives for trailer parks to change up their water and sewer and other things with landscape, and then they would get incentives for it. That's another state law. I'm interested in state laws around supporting young families. That's another area I'm doing. Also some cleanup work with laws to do with corrections and reentry. So lots of different things go on down there. And I warmly encourage you to ask me questions if you're not sure. If some topic is directed by state law, and I'm happy to either tell you my answer, or sometimes I do the research first and then give you a better answer. So, and I have a staff that helps with that. The other thing that I do a lot of is helping folks navigate state services. So, gee, I'm having trouble getting through to the state park system, or can you help me with my PFD? Or I have my neighbor is hungry and they put in an application for SNAP 3 months ago and they haven't heard back. Those are the sorts of questions that my staff actually really truly takes care of. And I also help. So it's important for you to know that if you or your neighbors have questions or need help navigating state services, that is my job, along with representing you and your voices as I'm in Juneau. So I saw this resolution today, for example. You could bet your bottom dollar that I will be taking that voice if you choose to vote on that today. And I would be making sure that that is elevated to the Department of Transportation, for example. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Quick update for what's happening is I have a written report for you that's on the table already. So I'm not going to go through all of it. Firstly, there was just a thank you to Duke Russell, who has put together quite a volunteer team. If you're interested in volunteering with them, let me know and I will help connect you. I've been there a few times, it's fantastic. Lutheran Social Services is also seeing very high demand. Their numbers have grown, and if you'd like to help with that, I put the number in the report. That's just some community stuff that's gone on. Federally, there's a lot going on, and I'm not going to get into that because that's up to you to reach out to your federal delegation. But I can tell you where I am, where we participate in that discussion is things like ICE, for example, has they are now working with our National Guard in Alaska. And so we as a legislature is working on making sure that it's legal, kind of working through the details of what that looks like and how it might take away from the National Guard doing the good work that they've been doing in our state already. So that's the kind of thing that we've been looking after. Well, there's just been a lot of that, but I'm going to move to the state stuff. SNAP, this is kind of interesting. That's the supplemental nutrition program. Those who are in poverty and needing help with food, they typically get an EBT card. The EBT cards are good now to use at cars for hot food, which is new. So there's been some changes made and it's temporary, but it's good to know that it was done because of what happened with Along and the typhoon, when so many families were removed from access to making their own hot food. So that was the justification for that, and I think it's a good change for now. And then also, let's see, I think some of you probably already know I've had 7 different coffee town halls last weekend. Very successful. That the weekend before last, the weekend before Thanksgiving, and I want to thank you all who attended. Quite a few of you here I saw there. Thank you. The most of the topics that came up were around education, transportation. A lot of folks are very concerned about pedestrian deaths, which is why I brought this and several examples of reflector wear that you may pick up on your way out. Even if you don't wear it, if you come across others quite often who you know, who you think to yourself, gee, I wish they had something, you can keep it in your car and hand it out. This is all from the state of Alaska. They're doing their best to do something around that. We know that that's not the be all end all answer, but it's great to see that's happening. And then the other pieces I wanted to share is the other topics were around revenue proposals. What are we going to do around different types of taxes? Happy to talk to you about that. I know I brought that up in the past. And also just in general, public safety pieces. There are some laws that are now being considered. For example, the big one is age consent. And I want to share that with you because many of us are concerned about our young, mostly young girls who are being preyed upon. And unfortunately, the rules are very tight. And so we are now ensuring that an older person, we're changing the age range for those who can consent to sex. And so this will greatly affect, currently, according to the data in other states, it will greatly reduce the number of young girls who are being preyed upon. So really excited about that particular law. But the primary agenda for our caucus, I'm in the majority right now, in a bipartisan majority. The primary agenda, 3 things. One is that we get some sort of defined benefits in place so that we can be competitive as a state and get the public workers we need, especially the police officers and the teachers. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that we support education. We know that we did raise the BSA last cycle, but we also know it's nowhere near the level that would be effective in reaching our inflationary costs of education. And the last thing is that we have a responsible budget.
that doesn't dip in too much to our savings. So those are the three pieces that our caucus is working on. There are other things around, like I mentioned, pieces that are with safe storage, with elections especially, and making sure that we don't have so much money in elections, things like that, that we are also working on. But again, I'm happy to talk to you about those things as you have specific questions. That's all I have.
Okay, so we have time for questions. Tony's had her hand up, so Tony, if you want to go first.
Yeah, the connection's bad, so can you hear me?
Tony, you have your hand up if you want to go first.
Yes, I'm talking, but you can't hear me, can you? Nope.
Not hear you when you are talking.
Can you hear any of us?
I'm going to check the chat. Mute or
Speakers working on the out.
have you heard of other people?
Can you hear other people?
It showed me you're muting. Let me try and ask to unmute. I don't know if I can just unmute you. So I think I can just unmute. Okay, fine. So what I'm do because I can't unmute you. Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's your speaker.
It's my speaker.
While you're working on that, he has a question right here.
Oh, no, I don't have a question. I was just one time. Come on. It's Saturday now.
So we can't hear you. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna mess with this, follow you while somebody else says their questions. Yes, Celia.
Women in government.
Yes, it is a formal national group,
Oh, gosh.
and it is very interesting. Was in California, the first one was in Texas, and it's around things like healthcare. It was around also whether or not investments and financial economic decisions in policy are beneficial to women, and of course the answer is no. There are many things that affect us more than they affect men, and you know, even still, we make about 80 some cents on the dollar to the wage system, so we can't put in as much as men do. So typically, it is women's issues that we go over, and it's bipartisan. In fact, it's more Republicans than Democrats. So a very interesting group, and I got some good ideas that I intend to bring here. One of them is around the cost that any consumer pays when they use a credit card, a Visa and MasterCard, not Amex. Amex is done differently, but the bank costs are directly go to businesses, and businesses tend to tack that on to the prices. And those bank costs in other countries is typically about 0.3%. And in the US, it's 2 to 3%. So we are paying much, much, much higher, same service. And they'll say things like, well, that's so that you can have, you know, a frequent buyer club that gives you all these pluses. Well, it turns out they have those very same things in other countries. So it's really not that, it's that they have such monopoly. And so Chicago, or Illinois has a state law that is helping to get at that. It doesn't allow servers, for example, they can peel off those in restaurants. They can peel off that portion so that they don't pay tax. They don't pay their income tax on that percent. It's really interesting. So there's some things like that happen in women in government. I recommend if you have any further questions, I can give you much more detail. Really good thoughts on policy.
Okay, I'm gonna try Tanya again. Tanya, I think the speaker. Do you want to give it?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Glorious.
Oh, is that a yes? You can hear me? Okay, great. I had a question. Well, I'm sorry. I wanted to make a statement earlier about Elise going over, or Representative Galvin, sorry, going over kind of the list of legislative topics that she's working on. I know you said that you saw that there was a resolution tonight about pedestrian safety, and that you would be taking that absolutely if it gets voted on and take it to the legislative folks to go over it, but this is now, I think, the third one that we've passed with this. So this is not a new issue. This is not a new topic. We have an entire committee that's dedicated to the safety of our roads. And I'll end here because we have way too many deaths. There are so many different issues, but it 100% feels like the state is absolutely sleeping on their responsibility to protect Alaskan residents who live in Anchorage.
Well taken, I agree, we haven't done enough. When my interactions with DOT is typically when they come and present their budget. And so, I'm sort of the last opportunity to question what they're doing, to be honest. There is a transportation, committee that, Caroline Hall sits on, and she's, come here occasionally. So she would be probably better versed in all of the things that they've done with your resolution, but I can tell you that I asked. I especially am bothered by, we closed down school for 5 days, not this last winter, but the winter before, lots of different things, and Fairbanks did. And Fairbanks had much worse snow situation. They didn't have half of their equipment shut down like we did. There are lots of different things that really, truly, I think, just beg the question, what are you doing? Where are you spending your money? If you're building roads in, well, I know they're building roads up north right now in farmland, right, to connect farmers to their houses, and that's perhaps important. But we have to take care of where we have most of the people, especially looking at the number of pedestrian deaths that are just off the charts. And it said that to us at the last transportation meeting we went to locally. So I do go to those meetings as well. And ask those questions like why are we doing this? The two projects that are on New Seward Highway and Tudor, and New Seward Highway is 36. And they were going over all of this talk, but they wouldn't really get into McGinnis, which is where serious accidents have taken place. And it's the same thing as on this side of town. That to me, you can't fix a road like they were proud that they were going to get more cars through smoother, but that really would mean more problems where the rough spots are, right? Because you need to slow the traffic, not speed it up necessarily. Anyway, so I agree.
Over time, but
Yeah, it takes time.
Yes. Thank you so much for that report today. And
Can I ask one more quick question? I'm so sorry.
so you're really gonna move on. You put it in the chat. I can make sure that she has it.
I'll put it in the chat, but I appreciate if somebody could give it to her because I think it's important.
Okay, thanks. Assemblymember Rivera, you are up next.
I am. I'm here as Carolyn Hall's new worker, but I don't have much to say. Not gonna report. This is like day 3. So
Okay, awesome.
but I'm there. Probably. You're me, weren't you know? But yeah.
Okay, so a few things to report. First is on our 2026 budgets. So the Assembly last month approved our various budgets. It was a several month process for us to review, analyze, and then eventually approve. It's the first bite at the apple. We have our November process to approve the budget, then we have our April process where we fine tune the budget and we set the mill levy. There weren't really that many changes that were made to the budget. Some of the changes made focused on things like public safety, housing, homelessness, public transportation, and since it was the most recent discussion that we had here, focused on pedestrian issues. The mayor and some of my colleagues on the assembly pushed to increase the bond, which voters get to vote on pretty much every year. It's on the bond for traffic calming issues. So that increase was made, and certainly, since I'm on that issue, the municipality has I would say, on the assembly side, sometimes a love, sometimes a hate relationship with DOT. we do our best on the assembly to work with DOT on these issues and push them as much as we can to do more and to be more. I think what many of us have said, and I know what I have said, is what can we do to be more creative, to be more out of the box, to not have to go through all of the normal routines that a traffic engineer has to go through before they even do the most simple measures. So certainly, I think it's a good thing that you are passing this resolution, and I hope that you continue to push it. One of the things on the budget, which leads to my second topic, is on taxation. You know, the mayor talked, and I know we have a representative from the mayor's office here, so I don't want to speak for the mayor, but the mayor talked about a fiscal cliff when presenting her proposed 3% sales tax, and it was also fiscal situations were also part of the budget discussion as well. I think by and large, between the fact that the state has reduced its what was at one point a very significant contribution to the municipal budget, anywhere in the range between 30 to almost 40% of the municipal budget was supported by the state, to now we're looking at 1%, a little less than 1% supported by the state. And then the expenses of everything is going up, right? The municipality buys a lot of goods. We employ a lot of individuals, wages, healthcare, all these things, contracts are going up. We're doing the best that we can with the dollars that we have, but those dollars are getting spread thin. And so this is a situation that we have seen and we have known is looming. And so for tax proposals, all four of those will need to go to the voters in April for approval. So none of these are ones that we can just do on our own. And three of the proposals are going to be back before the assembly on December 16th. I'm not going to go into the details, so I'm going to assume prior to me, people have talked through the details with you all. But there's the 5% short-term rental tax, the 2% bed tax, and then the 1% sales tax. Those three are going to come back before the assembly on December 16th. We've already had the public hearings, but certainly, so there won't be an opportunity to testify before the assembly, but certainly want to encourage folks, if you want to engage in the public process there's still the opportunity to email the assembly, to contact your assembly members, and have conversations about those various proposals. I don't know if we're actually going to take a vote. I know that there are some members who are authors of these proposals who are probably itching to take a vote on their proposals to see if they will be put on the ballot or not. And then the other proposal, the newest proposal that was introduced is a 3% sales tax. I won't go into the details there other than to say we had a public hearing yesterday at the assembly meeting, and we will have another public hearing at the meeting of January 13th. It's our first assembly meeting of the year. And it is the last opportunity to actually put something on the ballot. So the second, I don't know if I got that right, but the second assembly meeting in January is the last opportunity we have to put something on the ballot for the voters to consider in April. So those are the four different proposals we have. If you have one preference over another, definitely encourage folks to let us know in the assembly. The last thing I'll mention is on homelessness. There is a very exciting project that'll be opening up very soon. It's the recovery residences off of Tudor and Elmore. 14 units that are going to be focused for individuals experiencing homelessness who are looking for treatment. And it is project years in the making. We've been talking about this for a while. I'm very excited. I'm going to be visiting the site next week. It's Wednesday. And looking forward to seeing it open and it utilized. On winter shelter, we learned yesterday at the assembly meeting that it was either Thanksgiving or the day after that we have maxed out on all of our shelter for the winter. And so definitely looking forward to hearing from the administration on what our sort of future options are if there is an increased demand for more shelter beds. Thanks.
Are there any questions? Tommy, did you have another question? Or is your hand still up? I keep talking at screen. Tommy, do you have another question or is your hand still up? Here. Does anybody in the room have a question? CJ, you can ask me.
So looking at the state constitution, it says that we're all pretty much equal and that we should benefit from our industry. So I noticed that you have all these programs for the homeless, and I'm wondering when you're going to start paying for my house payment and paying for my food and paying on my phone. I mean, if we're all equal and you can spend millions of dollars on the homeless, at what particular time are you going to take care of the taxpaying constituents? Failure to do that is basically against the state constitution, which you swore an oath to follow. And that constitutes by the Alaska Charter or the Anchorage Charter fraud. So if you can't reduce your costs to where you're not spending so much money, because we all have to balance our checkbooks, but you don't seem to have to. And if you can't do that, then you should resign.
Want to give Member Rivera an opportunity to respond?
Sure, thanks. So yes, certainly I took an oath to the U.S. Constitution, the Alaska Constitution, and the Municipal Charter. And I 100% agree that we are all, I think we as government, distinct from an individual household, have, I think, very unique responsibilities to each other. And I think we as a society need to do everything that we can for those who, for whatever reason, it could be addiction issues, mental health issues, loss of a job, any number of issues have fallen into houselessness. And I think from a basic economic perspective, it is much more fiscally responsible for us to do what we can to help these individuals come back into society than it is to allow these individuals to continue to be in their current situation and continue to use public resources like ER, police, fire. It is from a just basic fiscal responsibility standpoint, and then from a humanitarian standpoint, I want to do everything that we can to help those who need help.
Kim?
Oh, where I could go in so many different ways. So in my case, I fell into homelessness. Somebody went on a $25,000 shopping spree, and I went out in a car, and I had medical issues, and so I was nonverbal for a 2-year period. And I can tell you this much: I had the luxury of having a car, having thousands in my savings, which I completed over a period of time, and over a 9-month period, I did all I could to help people that were outside behind me and in other parts of town. And what I can also tell you this is it's very difficult to get out of that situation without a helping hand. I'm assuming you never faced, being outside yourself, but the aspects of survival, they come at you from any number of directions. And, it's unforgiving, whether it's the weather, the people next to you. It literally becomes a word defies type of atmosphere. And so what I can say is, people, they have a moral and ethical dilemma to try and help those around.
So Jimmy, I actually need to redirect a little bit. Because your question needs to be for Member Rivera.
No problem. But I was more or less sort of trying to say it in a polite, professional way, but trust me, when I say that a lot of people don't see this issue and they don't understand it until it happens to them. And then when it does, some things get completely different. So that's pretty much all I want to say. The sales tax thing, obviously, there are a lot of things right now that are facing the state and the local municipality, and there are a number of decisions. I'm not saying it for or against it. There are obviously economics involved. They're tough decisions that need to be made. But I won't go on to the homeless thing where I think I've said this. The struggle is real, sir. On so many different levels. But you do need to separate The outreach effort from law is, if you're gonna be effective, it's to outside to not trust workforce well, and then you break the students as so you're public, so it's just all I need to say.
Check.
Felix, thank you for being here. I know that you and your colleagues share, Spenard and alternate coming to our meetings since we see you maybe twice a year. But, I know that you're termed out in April and just wanted to say, thank you for all of your years on the assembly. It's been a wild ride and there's had many ups, many downs, and I know it has to be. So thank you for all the work done. This has always been really responsive when I reached out. So thank you for that. Just wanted to say.
Thanks. I'll be here one more time, so I don't need to do this thing yet, but thank you.
With that, we'll move on to our next report from the airport. Myself, Jay.
It's part of our, I don't know if I should stand or not, but I'll just stand up because I think I'm projecting around. Hopefully mine will be a little bit lighter. But yeah, it was I'm Black Silvers and I do communications for the airport. Your local airport. But yeah, so some of our summer 2026 travel updates from all of our big carriers. I'm gonna just go down the list. So of course we have Southwest coming to the airport in summer 2026. They're going to do daily flights to Denver, Las Vegas. So these are all new routes for summer, and then there's a couple for winter. American Airlines will do daily flights to Phoenix in the summer. WestJet is going to begin doing service Friday and Sundays to Calgary, Alberta. So that will be in summertime. Alaska Airlines is also increasing services for Honolulu, but this will be in December, so they're going to do twice daily flights. They're also going to do a Las Vegas flight that will go twice weekly, daily, or twice weekly to daily next summer. Delta Airlines will also be doing Saturday only flights to Los Angeles. And that will be a daily service next summer. And United Airlines will be doubling its Denver flights from 2 to 4 daily flights next summer. So lots of new development and airline routes. So that's super exciting for us. The next big thing is we have our 2025 DNC Kids Holiday Art Contest. And so all of the art has been collected and all 19 locations of Campfire Alaska students have put in their art for this contest. And so it's going to be going up on our wall right across from TSA. So if anybody happens to be coming through the airport, it's going to be December 8th through the 19th. You can vote on which art is the best. There's going to be some really great prizes that the top winners will give. So if you happen to swing by and see it, make sure to choose your favorite pieces of art. Next up, as you all know, we have our ANC Part 150 noise study, and it's evaluating noise around the airport and how it's impacting communities. I think it's the easiest way to say or explain what it is to people. But yeah, the best way you can go and input any comments you have is to go to the website that they have created. We have a contractor that created the website. It's ANC150noisestudy.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can either send us a message or sign up to receive updates. So we have 2 meetings coming up in winter time. So it's a public house. We'll have another public house, and there's also a study advisory committee meeting. So there'll be opportunities for you to come in and say your comments in person. But if you're not planning on being in person, obviously go online and submit your comment. The next big thing is we have our Alaska DOT and TF aviation regulation reform. And so this is not just statewide aviation, but it's also the Alaska International Airport System, which consists of ANC and FAI. And so we're specifically looking at Title 17 and Chapter 42, which governs ANC and FAI. And so that's basically what you guys are going to be most interested in if you want to comment for this. And so we put an online public notice out for it. So you can go online and look at that public notice. It will take you right to that code. And so if you have any changes you want, or if you've ever worked at the airport and you have regulations where you're like, I want this process to be different, this is where you would go on and tell us what you want to see different. How can we make things more effective for you? Yeah, and beyond just submitting comments, you can submit them online or you can email them to us. we're gonna have 3 in-person meetings where you can go and just tell us, you'll have 2 minutes to state whatever you'd like to say. And so there's gonna be a general aviation meeting. It's Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport General Aviation community meeting, and so that will be probably for like and so that will be on December 8th on Monday, and then we have another one December 10th on next Wednesday, which is going to focus on regulations regarding AI, so fair against international airport, and then on Thursday next week, December 11th, there's going to be the outside stakeholders of ANC and FAI General Aviation communities. So if you're interested in that, I recommend going online and looking up the online public notice and just seeing what it's about. We're basically looking for clarifying existing regulatory obligations, reducing costs to the public, industry, or government, or basically any ideas for regulatory change that you'd like to see. But that's kind of our biggest push right now is getting all of the comments in because they're due in early January. Last up is it's the holiday season, so it's one of our busiest times of year. Obviously, summer is the busiest, but it's still picked up in traffic, and so especially over Thanksgiving, we had our short-term and short-term and long-term parking lots full. So make sure to utilize other parking like the North Terminal. We have the park right and fly lot, and then there's also private options. So if you guys are going to the airport, try to be on time, but also check your flight before you come to the airport, just so you have extra time. And lastly, if you're interested in receiving any of our online public notices, any community updates, go and sign up for GovDeliberate. Those are the biggest things. Very good. But yeah, any questions?
No, thank you. Oh, yeah. Is there any talk about waiving the TSA fee for the real ID for Alaskans since 35% of Alaskans should not get real ID?
Yeah, that I've definitely seen that in the news. But that's not something that we've responded to yet. It's also something we can't answer because we're reporting that TSA, unfortunately, since it's a partner. We can't really speak for them. And if I had received a media request about it, I would love to answer your questions, but I haven't. Yeah. But I would love to write that down, take a comment, and I will work on it.
It's a big percentage of them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think we have a credit on food for the airport, but yeah, I don't know, but I will definitely write that down and see what I can find out. But I have a feeling I might not get answered just because it's TSA and it is unfortunate not our choice.
Like they have to.
Yeah, they
But
I can check on that for you.
I'm saying something to look into that. So it was going to be total now it's 45. So
I know, yeah. It's and so I know you asked last time about how can you put in comments for the part was that him? Yeah, okay.
but if it was me,
Yeah. But if you go online, you look up ANC150noisesteady.com, it doesn't just go over like the purpose, scope, and like process of and give you a timeline of the whole project. But you can go on and submit any comments you'd like. It will also tell you when the next meetings are coming up, but of course I'll to you guys all the time. Thank you.
okay, next up is me. I have a very brief report. We were trying to come up with our Spenard win because I tried to give a Spenard win. People like the food's really good. Spenard is the best food. That is correct. Spenard is the best food, but I'm very excited to see that we have a real like the plot. It'll stay sort of with us in the new iteration. So that's our December win. Can you elaborate on that? Oh, it was during community announcements. Would you like to give I don't know, paragraph summary?
Sure. So I'm going to be taking over the writer's block space when it leaves in the new year and bring in a different name, change out some of the structure on the inside, but it's gonna be a very similar model to kind of continue on that creative sphere of event space, bookstore, and
Small cafe.
Will you be open Mondays?
well, I will take
Thank you. I looked across the street, I will be there on Monday.
Mondays.
The other two things real quick, February, we will be having our Spenard Executive Board elections. So all of our seats are one-year terms, which means all seats are available. The chair seat is definitely available because the bylaws say that the president can only be president for 2 terms, and I am approaching the end of my 2nd term. So if you would love to run a meeting and put together an agenda and do what I do and discover on video that you are a dancing meeting leader, so embarrassing when I discovered that. That seat is open. We will be taking nominations in January to create the paper nomination for a paper ballot that will go out at our February meeting. We will also have a spot for write-ins, so if you don't make up your mind until February, if you will run in for a ballot campaign, that's totally cool too. If you are an eligible member of the community council, meaning that you are a resident or a business representative per Cambridge Municipal Code, you're eligible to run. If you have any questions about what it's like to be on the executive board, if anyone who's ever been on the Spenard executive board could raise your hand.
It is so much fun.
It is really fun.
And hard
And you learn how to operate tech. The second thing I want to make sure we cover is the Better Public Meeting Survey. So there's 2 community councils that are participating in something called Better Public Meetings. We're collecting feedback. It is anonymous. It is optional. It's like a 3-minute click the boxes survey. The responses do not come directly back to executive boards. They go to the National Civic League folks who are putting it together. And in a couple months, they'll give us a report of here's the feedback that folks gave you regarding how your meetings go. So we want honest feedback. What's great about our meetings? What could be improved? There's a QR code at the back in the acrylic holder back there. You just scan with your phone. It takes approximately 3 minutes or less. That's my reports. And if you have any questions for me. Yes.
And one question. Are the staff that we're doing respond, are they gonna be retained or
Is that open because of the permits and what, so, you know, I want them to for sure look for stuff in the interim.
so then how long do you think that come up in the assembly? What is the one from there? Does it still go forward? Does it not go forward? I don't know. I'm looking at it there. It's still not. Okay.
Something we're still deciding as individual councils. We wanted that feedback revaluable meetings.
Okay.
So we're working through that process, and in a couple of months we'll meet with them. Where it goes from there, I don't know.
Okay, I was confused.
Yes, it is the same entity, but it is not affiliated. It's not currently connected in that way.
I think I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. Next up on our agenda is the decision topic, the resolution 2025-05. Jet, did you want to speak to this? I will give a reminder that when we have a discussion about this, we will please pass your questions through me. Please.
Thank you, Sarah. This is this topic that's really personal to me, actually. I know that this was brought up a couple of months ago and we tabled it because there wasn't someone from, I think, either DOT or the administration to speak on it. But I don't think that was a good reason to continue to postpone it. I think that this is a really important issue for us all to keep elevated in our community. As I mentioned, this is a really personal issue to me. I live in one car household. I share a car with my wife. It's not, I don't say that to be self-righteous. I say that because it's an economic decision for us. Owning a car is really expensive. And we have chosen to live in Spenard because we can walk or bike to work, to the grocery store, to the restaurants we like to eat at, to the places we recreate, and to the shops that we like to go to. But the fact is, we can't spend our money at those places if we can't get there safely. This is an issue that I think affects every one of us, whether you drive a car, or whether you're on the sidewalk, or whether you're riding a bike on the street. This resolution maintains that it is important that we have safe streets for everyone, and we do that through basic things like improving the lighting on the streets. You know, I hear a lot of times about, you know, people who are wandering out into the middle of the street. Well, as someone who walks to the bus stop, I can tell you that the sidewalks aren't always maintained. And if there's snow on the sidewalks, you sometimes don't have a choice but to walk in the road where it is plowed. So if someone's walking in the road and there isn't adequate lighting, I don't think that it's really fair to put the onus on pedestrians. So really, I think that this resolution, as it says, you know, we passed at least three of these since 2023. I think it's just really important that we continue to elevate this issue with our policymakers who show up to these meetings, and just let them know that this is a priority for our neighborhood. So with that, I think the only thing that I would add about this resolution is we do need to update it, unfortunately, because as of December 1st, there have been 16 pedestrian deaths in 2025. It says 10, and I just think that that is heartbreaking for everybody. So thank you.
Okay, yes, let's do every day. Go.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Okay, haven't technically moved it yet, but we could move it, it's really technically our rules.
I would move that we adopt this resolution on the Vision Zero goals.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Matt, first moved by Jen, seconded by Matt. You would like to read?
On the third, whereas limited street lights, high vehicle speeds to add mental health and addiction as main components of these pedestrian deaths. So it would be the limited streets, high vehicle speeds, mental health and addiction. Because 85% of these deaths have been people who have been intoxicated. So for me, I'm seeing this as bad decision making, stepping in front of traffic. Yes. So that would be mental health and addiction are huge factors that are being held in the room that we're talking here.
What do you mean about with the quick on?
The poor judgment by walking in front of cars. I had people jump in front of my car, living, and if you're in your right mind, you know that car is going to kill you if you don't stop it. So I don't know if these are vehicular assisted suicides because their mental health is not well. But I see people walking in the middle of the traffic. Last week I called 311 because someone was walking in a left lane in Minnesota and then decided to lay down in the median in the snow with their bare back. And I called 311 to get help because they were down in the snow now, big skin on the snow and ice. It was one of those really cold days. But I called 311 again after 20 minutes because I got up and then walked into traffic. And I was trying to prevent that person from getting hit as much as I could, but still after 20-25 minutes, 311 and the fire department is 2 minutes away, and that person still did not get help. They were obviously having some issues at that moment for them to be walking in traffic and then laying down in the middle of the street.
So we're going to discuss this one further. We technically need a second. Do not have a second. Sir, yes.
I have a question. How many of these deaths involve drugs or alcohol?
Phil, we really need a second. We're going to continue discussing this amendment.
Oh, we'll make a second.
Okay.
Well, it says 85% were pedestrian deaths as of September by the Alaska news source when they did that article about impairment was 85% at that point when it was the 10 or 11 deaths were impaired pedestrians and 40% were impaired drivers. So there is a addiction issue in the city that we're not addressing that is a huge part of pedestrian deaths.
Okay, I saw Cydia and then, I'm sorry, Meredith.
Can we change the wording instead of compared pedestrians instead of something that sounds a little judgmental, like prediction? Say it here, pedestrians instead.
I was saying it for as a whole, not just the pedestrians, because we're having a mental health and addiction issue anywhere, starting out first.
Okay. So your suggestion is perhaps
Say it.
impaired pedestrians and drivers instead? Okay.
Yeah.
And then Meredith?
A couple months ago, didn't we have the gal who was running the hotel down here, talking about telling us all about the police and the counselor and the police thing? So it's not that it's not being addressed. I mean, things like that. I feel like we got a good lesson in that. About what is being happening or what.
That was just for the Alex Hotel. It's not the city
And
anymore.
the neighborhood.
Okay, Lisa and Matt.
So this resolution, where is it going to? Because it appears to be addressed to the Alaska Department of Transportation, is that correct?
Correct.
They don't have anything to do with impairment, mental health, addiction, or anything else. This is traffic. DOT does not handle the other things. It may be part of it, but that's not where this resolution is going. So I'm not sure it's an efficient use of time. That's all.
It's a major factor. Just like 85% of those pedestrians would have made better gestures if they were sober.
DOT has nothing to do with that, though.
If you would like to make a second resolution,
Sure.
maybe we can fund mental health in the city.
That would be one option. I'm very genuine.
So we are still on this amendments. Do you have your hand up?
No, just a
Okay.
itchy eyebrow.
Okay. Tani, you have your hand up.
Yeah. So I'm on the Spenard Corridor Task Force project and have been on that for many, many years, where we have been dealing with this. And I will just say, one, it's what Jed said. This is a community-wide issue. I tried riding my bicycle with my mom to work, which was in Midtown. And to be completely honest, vehicles don't look for people. There are a lot of obstacles in place that make it unsafe for pedestrians, but also people in wheelchairs and bicycles. This is a shared community, and people who are driving vehicles are driving inherently dangerous objects, because they are heavy, they are fast, they are big, and they can kill people. You're a pedestrian. If you accidentally hit a car, I understand that some of your concerns, but this is to improve the safety of people. We want people to feel safe walking on the streets. And to your thing about, the statistic that you read, I wear all the different bright gear when I go for walks in the daytime or at low light conditions at night. I wear lighted vests. My dog wears one, reflective, and we still have issues with people who don't see us. Even tonight, my last thing will say, 2 different people on Spenard walked into the road, and because of the directionality of cars coming at us with their really bright lights, we didn't see them until very last minute. So they did not appear to be stumbling. They did not appear to have a mental health crisis. They were just crossing at one of the corners between traffic lights, and it was still hard to see them. So we're just looking. And so I don't support your amendment, and I feel like this should be passed because this is a community issue and the DOT is not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there's no more discussion, we can just vote. So, okay, reminder, if we're going to vote, you needed to have attended the Spenard Community Council meeting in the last 12 months and be a resident or business representative in the Spenard Community Council boundaries. That said, all those in favor of the motion to add to the third whereas. State your opinion.
To change it for limited street lights, high vehicle speeds, mental health and addiction, and the need for greater public awareness. So just to add the contributors of this are mental health and addiction.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendments, raise your hands. Two. All of those opposed? Okay, amendment fails. We're back to the main motion, which is the larger resolution. Jed, and then Eric.
I'd like to just make a second amendment to update the first whereas the statistics on the 16 pedestrian fatalities as of December 1st.
Second, I second that motion. I need that.
As that is the verifiable fact, is there any objection to adding that amendment? Or as an amendment, approving that amendment? Hearing none. Amendment to update the first whereas to read 16 pedestrian fatalities as of December 1st. Passes. Yeah.
I mean, it's called Vision Zero, but there's no definition of what that means. I guess DOT knows, because I don't know.
So Vision Zero is a larger, it's quite a big outline initiative. If there are others in the room more well versed on Vision Zero than I am. Yes.
Yeah, those are Mr. Ryan, Grant County, the mayor, we talked a lot about traffic safety last month, but I am on the Vision Zero task force and all DOT, but Vision Zero is the Vision Zero pedestrian fatalities or transport.
And Sarah, this is Mark Eisman. I'm the Anchorage area planner. I'm the Anchorage area planner for DOT. I'm also on tonight too, if you have any questions. But I know Graham's in the room, and I'm on the task force with him. So.
Address this too, but I do believe the Vision Zero's goal is just to reduce all fatalities on the road for drivers and pedestrians. So we're not simply, making excuses for pedestrians here, but we're just trying to reduce all deaths on the roadways forever.
Yes.
Just a quick clarification, I believe that project and that goal comes from another country, is that true?
I think New York City is the first place.
It's also a European thing, I have that background.
They've been much more successful.
Yes, they've actually managed a whole year without a death on the road. I think it was Finland.
Do you have questions for members of Vision Zero task force? Task force. To be fair, I did not ask.
I just have a question about the lighting. I totally love this. I want more lighting. Can we make sure that it's aimed down, not up? Like, are we still focused on that in our city at all? Because Spenard is a really magical spot because we're out here on the kind of a peninsula. We get the northern lights here. And so I'm part of the Dark Skies project, which I'm growing. But I'm not ready to like cocktail about it. But I am curious about, can you be clear about what kind of lighting that's aimed down, not up, or is that something we worry about now, or just ignore? I mean,
I know for a lot of the stuff we're looking at, it's pedestrian level lighting, so increasing the sidewalk lighting for visibility and the crossing lighting at the intersections as well.
Do the lights, do they beam down or do they beam out?
I think most of them are downward focused. Yes, they should. That would. I'm not the engineer on the project, so. But.
We recently had out a municipal engineer, which was good to the city for a long time. With really, because that is not just pedestrians, but also obviously we do have standards sort of dark sky things. They aren't maybe songs like there are some. So it's
Okay. Good discussion, hasn't All right. All those in favor of passing resolution 2025-05, raise your hands. Anyone online? John? Oh, All those opposed? Okay, resolution passes 14-2. Thank you, everybody. And now, in your program now, we have about Tisdale.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Take a look.
Well, yeah, so I'm not talking now, I'll make it, take this out. To reshape all this is. So they very much top line for the definitely things. Remember all Felix are all happy resolution. But excited to hear about solutions all that we addressed. Thanks for all the solutions. We talked about the systems and Will say, but I don't think I heard any of the other systems. So I'll just say if you have mentioned one, it's not really too good. Last year's 3% filled up the favorite problem, so actually it's solution. So anyway, we'd love to hear from you all on the sales tax. If you have not already submitted your testimony, I'm sure this would also love to hear. But you all want to hear from me mostly about the transit supportive development overlay, which is a proposed change to zoning that would impact Spenard. I thought maybe I would zoom out a little bit, tell you what the current status of the proposal is. I would maybe a little bit of the history, although some of you might know more than I do. And then talk a little bit about what problems we were trying to solve instead. Especially given the status where it is. I think we have be interested in your feedback on other ways, more refined ways to solve that problem. So the TISDO right now is on hold. It went through the Planning and Zoning Commission process. There was several working groups. There were many conversations like this at other community councils that were impacted. It had 3 public hearings with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they ultimately decided to approve it. But given the level of concern about the mayor and the sponsors, which include your benefits, the Revolving Day, Closer for Martinez, agreed to put it on hold so we can have more community conversations about the proposal and just generally about housing in Anchorage and what we're going to do to solve the crisis. So it is on hold right now while we need those broader community conversations. And I expect that anything that comes from the conversations would be significantly changed by the conversations, perhaps more targeted proposal, something different entirely that helps us achieve the goal of getting to 10,000 homes together. So happy to answer y'all's questions about the specifics of the proposal, but given that it is likely to change, I don't want to get too attached to those. History of the TISO very briefly, the idea is an old one. It goes back in Anchorage to 2001. The Anchorage 2020 planning process was the first time the name came up. That's where the name comes from. So we should thank 25 years ago, community process for the TISO. Transit supportive development overlay. And the name is a little bit confusing. The idea is that density is appropriate to put near transit routes for a couple of reasons. One is that it gives you more transportation options. Another is that transit routes are actually a good proxy for where we have existing infrastructure. And the plans have long wanted us to build housing where we have infrastructure rather than building sprawl, which is very expensive for the taxpayer. So those are some of the motivations going back to 2001. It was affirmed again in the 2040 planning process, which happened in the 2010s, so just about a decade ago. And in that process, the planners came out with a specific map that identified where the TISO should apply. And that map then was the basis for the proposal that members Walter Day, the mayor, Martinez brought forward last year. That map is Spenard, because we were all on high frequency transit route. Again, the basic problems really the TISO is trying to solve is we're not building enough housing. I think we've talked about in this group before. If we don't build enough housing, then the housing we have gets more expensive, to live in, it's people start the valley, or some not to move here, there's young people, working families, the holders need to downside solar options. So we need more housing in Anchorage, we need more diverse types of housing in Anchorage. So that was one of the problems we were trying to solve. The other problem was we want to build that housing where we have access to services. There's sort of the last 10 or even 30 years, Anchorage has built most of its housing by sprawling. And what that does, that means that we don't have a lot of tax dollars per foot of and sewer and police and fire service area. So the less dense our city is, the more expensive our city becomes because we have fewer tax dollars to support every foot of road. Each pothole is only supporting one handful of property. So as we're facing this fiscal cliff in our municipality, having more tax dollars per foot of road is something that can help balance budgets and reduce the burden on property owners. So that was another goal of Kidstone. And then the third goal of the digital was to create more vibrant, walkable neighborhoods. So in the initial proposal, there's a suggestion that we should allow more mixed uses, which is something you all are very familiar with in Spenard. You have businesses around the corner and walk to the grocery store. So trying to expand that, make it easier to have neighborhood appropriate businesses, to make it easier to walk places and to build housing where we have transit service, where we have relatively higher on site, they have calmer neighborhood roads. So those are some of the big goals of the proposal and initially has excited about it. And then, yeah, but it's all positive. And I'm happy to chat with you more about the details of how we were going to get there. But I think, and happy to answer your questions, but also eager to hear from you all about what you think we should do when to solve those problems. How do we build more housing? How do we make it more vibrant? How do we make Anchorage a fiscally responsible community that can pay for the nice things that we want? Sure, question. But maybe I'll start with your reviews.
Yeah. I read a book last year called Happy City, and it talks about many of the high density housing developments that have been developed all over the world. And one of the things that makes them fail is the inability to create a perceived defensible space that creates a sort of privacy for people. And the type of people that come to Anchorage, Alaska, are the type of people that think they need 5 acres of land and neighbors that are out of sight so that they can self-actualize and be their own person. I'm not those people. I like living in a city and lots of the grocery store. But how do we, what's the strategy to pit those two things against each other of the type of person that moves up here versus the type of tax base, because roads don't pay taxes, homes pay taxes, right?
Yeah, I think that is sort of the challenge that we have as a community. You know, the TISO was going to impact about 12% of R1 neighborhoods, which is sort of that classic single family, leave it to me, big fence type development. So it would still be 78% of that type of development in the city would be completely untouched by the TISO area because it was focused more on the core of the city. But I think, you know, even I heard from some of your neighbors in Spenard, like, you know, even if you live in an R3 neighborhood where taller buildings are already not multi-family houses, really not, you know, there's still stop shadows. So it's not just the case that a few neighborhoods were concerned. There was also neighborhoods like Spenard that concerns about potential impacts density. So thinking about how do we maybe more directly prevent those harms while still allowing the housing to be built is kind of the policy challenge, right? Current regulations, I don't know, shadows incredibly complex, and the complexity and nuance of that is itself barriers to building housing. So are there ways that we could craft better regulations that protect people from shadows or don't want housing? Or is there actually, I mean, maybe, or maybe there's just a zero-sum trade-off where it's like, we're gonna have to accept the risk of shadows in order to get help. I think that's sort of the conversation. I don't know, maybe I answered a different question here.
Did you still answer a good question?
Great.
I just had a question about your hold status. Has there been any planning around the community conversations that are a goal or when we will have those complete so that the plan can move forward?
I would like to be as soon as possible, but yeah, we're working with, we'll be able to insurance contractors community, so we don't have to go through the. We'll be working with outside contractors. Main goal being to as inclusive as possible, but also as productive as possible, really focused on how do we get to this goal of 10,000. Sarah?
Do you have a ballpark time on that? Like month-ish?
You know, we have a meeting with the potential consultants, I wanna say next week. They've given us a tentative proposal, so hopefully sooner than months.
When you said outside, does that mean the lower 48 outside?
No, also beauty.
Oh.
Loading.
Okay, thank you.
Local.
Got quick, 10,000 calls. Where you gonna put them?
Yeah,
Down in Spenard.
you don't want to start.
No. Well, just right down the street, just right down the street, there's a great big, there's a big, open field right there by the, park.
Right.
And they've been trying to put something there forever. Now that project, they put a whole lot of houses there, a whole lot of apartments, and so on, so. But I don't want a whole lot of houses, I don't. But I'm just, kind of selfish, because I live here, I don't need a whole lot of neighbors at that spot.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to make is that, let's not, build up Spenard with these 10,000 houses. We are here usually, if something is good, if something want something new, they put it over here in Spenard. We don't like, I'm not against homelessness and all that kind of stuff. But we didn't actually want it up over here. I mean, if we get a choice, put it somewhere else. It's always, people just don't want everybody, anyway, they just don't want a whole lot of stuff in the paper. But then again, like I'm saying, let's not pick out Spenard to fix the problem. Okay.
And I think, we'll be unsurprised that I hear that from most communities. But I think, so that's the real question. We need the council. So where does it go? And, but I think that your point is well taken, which is neighborhoods like Spenard have often there at the forefront of change, right? The most change, also under, right? Sometimes a lack of change, a lack of investment. So thinking about one of the goals of the DISCO is trying to balance. How do we make sure that growth and change are distributed fairly in the core of the city, promoting without subjecting any one neighborhood to really dramatic change. So figuring out how we do that is actually.
Okay, I saw Jed and then Whoopsie or Mara, and then Mark.
So, counterpoint to that, which I hear where they're coming from, and I know 7 years ago, we heard from a developer who wanted to put, I think 800, said he was gonna put 800 units of housing on that lot, which I think was a little bit unrealistic on his part of this, James' part of it. But on the other hand, I can think of at least a half a dozen lots directly on Spenard, on a frequent transit route that could accommodate more than 5. And nothing has to be a high-rise apartment on that scale. But if you look at the things that Kuzma housing stuff, and I think they've done more than their share here. What we can do to sort of attract developers to bring in tasteful developments that can be accessible for people of all income ranges, whether they're market rate or low to moderate. It's an event in our neighborhood all the more. I guess my question, and I don't know if there's a real easy answer to this. A few months ago, I don't know if she was a developer, some type of an agent that came to us to talk about a rezone for a lot on Spenard Boulevard. It was going to change it from a residential lot to a business lot, and that's happened a lot in Spenard, as we've seen the disappearance of residentially zoned lots. And I think that proposal ended up moving forward, not with our tacit support. I don't think that we opposed it, but we certainly weren't supportive of that loss of residential zone. And so I guess my question is what is the sort of philosophy? Will we allow this upzoning to business lots and see this disappearance of residential zoning? How does that fit into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one data is, but CHA has been in some years the only builder of multifamily housing in Anchorage, and then only because they get millions of dollars of federal. We just had no till here. We had no market rate, non-subsidized multifamily housing. So it's not zero. Now, CHA refers to their here. So I don't want to overspeak, but B3 is technically a business zone, but because it's so flexible, it's actually been where a lot of CHA's residential units have been built. Oh, Cook Inlet housing. So B3 in particular has been something that people have been trying to zone into, but not necessarily to not residential. So that's what we think why is R4, which is supposed to be playing a similar role in B3, that residential. Why are we not? So that's something we need to try to figure out. And in Midtown in general, we have a pretty high rate of commercial vacancies. So something else we'll need to look at is maybe conversions. So how do we make it easier for someone to take a vacant office space and turn it into a unit of housing? And that might mean that we move a little bit away from some of those distinctions between commercial and residential.
And then we had Mara, and I saw you here. What's your name? Cindy. Okay, Mara, then Cindy. Then I think I saw.
Yeah, so I've read the 24 plan, I've read just, I'm just trying to figure out where the 10,000 and now it's 5,000 and 5,000. Where are these numbers coming from? Because, you know, I mean, do we need 10,000? I do think we need more homes, definitely. I think we need to, you know, have prices be more competitive. Homes, but where's this 10,000?
That's a number sorted from a couple places. Interestingly, it's very similar to the number that they estimated in the 2020. They call for about 1,000 homes a year starting in 2021. And simply did not build housing. And then more recently, IMAG has done some market analysis, looked at overcrowding, looked at dilapidated structures and deteriorating structures, and they came up with, I want to say this like over like some 9,000 something or other units a year to sort of stay at where we're at. 10,000 that is significant for that, but I think we have both the Anchorage will get not just stay where we're more welcoming, more people would want to move here. So 10,000 is a slight rounding up of that exact number.
Okay, and then a follow-up question. So now people on R1, R2 can build duplexes, ADUs, which is great.
Yes.
Where is data on how many of those are being built? I've looked at community permitting and I can't find it. And so
yeah, if you go to the development services website, and I'll find the link, I'll share the link, Sarah, so she can secure it. We have for the dwelling unit that tells you for each of the last, say it was 20 years, how much of single family, two family, housing built in each of the last couple of years. For reference, last year we had fewer than 300 dwellings total permitted. This year we're inching closer to 400. So already a 33% increase this year. And a lot of that's been driven by the multifamily construction that was unlocked by some regulatory changes we made, as well as incentive. So we're seeing some direction going in the right direction, but you know, we're still making up 20 years of building. So long way to go.
That's Cindy.
All right, has there been any consideration for the residential areas for building shops with housing above them? Is there anything in, you know, in permitting that's allowing mother-in-law units where they can be placed on current single-family housing or a duplex lot, and you know, increasing a small footprint like that instead of going in and building a multiplex, where I've seen several single family homes taken out and then there's apartments put in with no services available, which are not making it necessarily a walkable neighborhood. there's no stores or anything nearby to encourage the population.
Yeah, the initial version of the Disto that was first brought forward would have allowed mixed uses in residential neighborhoods. But as you've all can imagine, that was very controversial. And I think what we think through a little bit about making sure, just one, the new commercial would displace residential, or that it would sort of take over the neighborhood and change the area. So that's something we just want to correct. We're going to be a little more thoughtful about how we allow those types of mixed uses. I happened to be in Japan in March and saw a lot of it, and it's really like friendly and humane and small scale, but we don't necessarily have that style of development yet in Anchorage. So I think we can figure out how we build that here, how we back here, and that's pretty human the scale. We do allow mother-in-law currently, so that's you heard that right, ADU accessory dwelling units. Those are allowed everywhere in Anchorage, and so you can build one more. I think that the issue is we're building maybe 28 of those as a city per year. So it's going to take a lot more of this piece of our housing.
Matt, I saw you and then Jamie.
Every time we bring this up, someone asks empty housing that we have right now. Maybe there's a lot of empty houses in Spenard. Why are they empty?
Yeah, you have a theory.
Do I have a theory?
Yeah.
People want too much money for them. They have.
Yeah. So the 10,000 mayor's 10,000 home strategy we talked about maybe a year ago has 4 planks. One of them is moving renting, which is so falls into that bucket. Another one is stakes. So when people are doing things with their properties that we don't like, collecting them, they're land speculating, or 48. How do we try to get more productive use out of what we already have? So in that category, we have a vacant abandoned property registry. So if there's a vacant property in your neighborhood, go look on the registry. Well, you might not be able to look on the registry. You might ask the Development Services Department, do you know that this property is vacant? Because if it's not on the registry, then they would be subject to fines and fees. And if they continue to rent those fines and fees, then you can put a lien on it, maybe we can close on it, sort of use some of our municipal stakes. Others have brought up maybe there could be some tax rules to help disincentivize leaving properties vacant or abandoned. So that's something we want to take a look at. There's some state law that we might have to look at in terms of we can't currently treat different owners differently. There's even a concept like you can't treat out-of-state owners differently than in-state owners because of the federal constitution. So there's some like legal nuances to work out there and definitely something.
So just slightly joking, slightly serious. Do Japanese capsules count as tiny homes or as homes in the 10,000 homes in 10 years later?
We don't have plans to build capsules. Yeah, I don't want to have some building for the so
right.
Tiny homes are slightly bigger.
So I think some of the frustration that I was hearing from folks about this last iteration to Stowe was that it was so much so fast. And I'm a transit housing nerd. I like to think that I'm kind of up on things. And by the time we got to like round 4, it was like that when you take a long weekend and you come back with 457 emails, like, wait, where are we right now? And so it was a very detailed plan that kept changing very quickly. So, I guess my feedback for folks working on it is, what a good time. And is there a way to simply explain the really detailed pieces that are going into it? I know that, when it comes to actually implementing that plan, it needs to be complicated, and it should be because there are details, but it's easier for the community if we understand what we are or are not supporting, and it got really confusing.
I will say that's the thing that I personally think we're trying to make this react responsible so that the impact can make and there were some people hyper sophisticated and I was one of an expert commentators who were like, well actually the height limit should be tiered so that we just ended up with I think I was totally responsive to those folks and that did end up with this churn. It's changed very frequently. and it's very complex something. So that is something I personally, and that's always going to be, are we being responsive to the community and changing it versus just honestly know what's going on. I think really broad strokes what the ordinance was doing policy wise, I think the big pictures were legalizing all types of residential uses. So right now the code makes a distinction between a townhome, a single family, a detached town, assisted living facility. They're just like any type of residential, a multifamily housing. It's different than an ADU. There's just all these residential use categories. And the TISO was going to say, if you don't care, if it's housing, then it's allowed. So that was sort of one of the changes the TISO was going to do. Another big bucket of changes for the TISO was minimum lot sizes, which I think is something still worth thinking about. Minimum lot size basically means you have to buy a certain amount of land before you can buy a house. Those were sort of, you basically are required to buy a ground house through your defensible space. Some people do want that vote, great, they should be able to buy it, but some people don't. Maybe they should not have to buy it. So that was one of the ways maybe we could bring the cost of housing down by making so you didn't have to buy as much land in order to get the house. I mean, there was some really interesting stuff about that. And then there was a change to heights, which I think a lot of people were concerned about. That ended up being one of the changes the most, breaking those heights down.
I was just gonna say, I know planning and zoning used to send out mailers and that has recently been scrapped, but I think that would have informed a lot of the public ahead of time and given people an opportunity to be a part of the conversation. And I think a lot of people are really caught off guard. This is really gonna change the fabric of our city. And it's a really big deal. And I think we all need to be really involved in this. So I understand it was to cut costs, and that the city is really struggling for money right now, but I don't think that was a responsible place to cut the costs personally. So
Yeah.
I would love to see those brought back.
Totally. So the I would say it's not actually mostly about cutting costs. In the mailers, the TISO would have cost $70,000. So it's something we thought about. I think it's more that we get like a less than 0.1% response rate. So it's more that the mailers just had a very high expense on city to deliver a lot of value. I will clarify that mailers are still going to be required if your neighbor wants to do a rezone. So the only thing that is exempted from the mailers is when the mayor or the assembly decides to make policy level changes about the zoning code. The mailers are still going to be required. An individual wants to make a change. We don't send out mailers for any other changes to any other section. So just sort of bring that into law. We don't send mailers out when we create the grounds or change traffic laws or any number of other things that were clear about yesterday. So yeah, anyway, thanks for the feedback.
All right. I'm listening and thinking, one of the statements that you made is we don't want that amount of housing right here at Spenard. And I'm one of these old souls, and I always bring this up. People that lived in downtown Anchorage back in the 40s and 50s moved out to Spenard to avoid, David Reimer does that historical thing. And it's a little outlaw place here. But now, 50, 60, 70 years later, a lot of us want it to be a little bit more organized maybe, but still not too strict. And I don't want people next to me that are too messy or too weird. And that's why you want this space. But on the other hand, you still need that community. You want your neighbors to have some similarity. So I'm thinking about my brother, grew up here like we did down the street. But now he bought a place in Bayshore because it was the first planned neighborhood. And the restrictions there of homeowners, those homeowners associations is pretty tight. And then he could have his camper to get ready to go fishing. So he'd come to my house, which is down the street. Yeah, in Spenard, you get away with that. But there is such a level of wanting it to be nice and organized and have your neighbors be similar to you, and then not having too many rules. And it just is a hard balance. And I think this conversation is super important. And for people in the roles that
Yes.
My God, excuse me.
Phillies. Yeah, so I think it's really valuable, and I'm super impressed so far with the mayor. And I'm hoping that her administration can kind of come to that for, and even just acknowledging, yeah, it's crazy and it's a mess and whatever. But I really value that people come and just share that, and then you guys have to listen to it. It's true that it's a special place. I have moved away from here 3 times. And I keep calling God, no, I didn't tell this about this and stuff. It's an important thing to discuss, but I can see these issues that concern us.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, thanks for it. But you're right. There is a little bit of you know, some of Spenard's appeal is the like Wild West, like anything goes, and like, and on the other hand, you know, we've had a little bit of swing. So Title 21 shifts the set of rules that just changed. Or zones, you know, it's now up to 1,000 people. And a lot of those changes, the 2014, I feel like maybe remembers more specifically than I do, it's a major rewrite. And I think there were a lot of ambitions in that rewrite and then the 2040 planning process that we could micromanage, that we could get. We could say, well, in this specific area, we're going to get exactly this type of building. You know, over here we're going to have really cute little bungalows, and over here we're going to have a mixed-use town center, and so it ended up getting really prescriptive, almost like an HOA for the whole city. And I think that's not really introduced vibes.
Well, it's not Spenard, so
Yeah, I mean maybe just puts that out. But you know, you want to, and I think we've maybe at this point shifted a little bit too much on the side of prescription and micromanagement, and that prevents that kind of organic growth that makes a neighborhood like Spenard feel like Spenard, where you can have the sort of incremental investment, the small businesses, the mother-in-law moving in next door, like weirdo taking something strange on their house, right? Like we kind of actually that sort of spontaneous community investment sometimes gets blocked out.
I do like the comment you made today about all over the rest of the country and the parts of the world. People lived above where they worked, because that was their business, that was a private owner, and then everyone else lived nearby too. So we have that sprawling thing that doesn't, you're like, oh, I can't live anywhere near where I work. Yeah, well, then all this traffic and that whole thing. So finding that, because like in New York City, which was a place I was really frightened to go to because I thought, oh, everything's terrible there. Well, then I found that within 10 blocks, everybody is just like a little town. They don't even know or care. So this isn't that different. So they had, 20 stories of apartments above, but then they have dry cleaners and shops and, restaurants and everything right away. You're like, okay, that's not quite Spenard, but you could see that combination instead of all business here, all homes here.
And that's not how do we allow the organic growth, the incremental investment without the dramatic change, the destruction of the oh my god, it's up to 800 versus
yeah. Good luck.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or feedback or? What can we expect next? What should we be looking for?
Well, next, once we hire the consultant, we come up with a plan for the community meetings about 10,000 homes, and we get there together, that we'll share information with you all about invitation times and dates, and love to have you all there, be part of the conversation.
How do we give you information?
How do you get my information?
How do we give you information?
Well, you can give me information directly by email. Sarah has my contact information to share with everyone. There's also, if you want to comment on the TISO specifically, the planning department has created a page about the TISO, and that page is a couple links. One, you can sign up for a general planning department newsletter. The TISO is not the only thing they're working on, there's lots of other reforms we're trying to make. So I recommend signing up for that just for. And then there's also forums and comments on the TISO specifically about this thing. And I think if you Google TISO, TSO, and definitely if you Google TISO English, I think you should be the first result.
Yeah, this was when we had a discussion of what do you guys want to hear about? What do we want to hear about in Spenard? TISO was far and away what people wanted to hear about the most and what we wanted more information on. So I anticipate we'll have people back. There's something good about TISO. So to hear our updates and see what's going on.
No, thanks for listening.
Thank you for asking. Does anybody have any last minute before we depart for the good of the order.
They have to eat all the cookies before we leave.
Yeah, Irene doesn't want to take anything, so take cookies.
Later the comments.
All right, does anybody have a mind to adjourn at the end? So.
Motion to
Okay, that's what I redid and who seconded that? I think we're counting that either, but here we are. Bye. We're adjourned. 8:43. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to survey.